So we're going to begin problem number 3. Problem number 3 is an exercise of reconciliation. Reconciliation is the concept of balancing what is in a check register against what is in a bank statement. There is always information that a bank has that may not have come to you yet or to a business yet, and information that may be in the business's check register that has not, that has not yet been, that the bank does not know about yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at two pieces of information and we're going to reconcile or balance the information from the bank and the information from the checking account or the check register. All right. You will see here these 2 pages together because for problem number 3, I need this mock-up of a bank balance. I need the reconciliation worksheet, which is this piece down here at the bottom, and I need a sample from a check register. That's this part up here at the top. So the bank statement, it's a fake one, it's a mock-up, but it's an attempt to get as close to the reality as we can. You will notice that the bank statement shows the previous balance, the number of deposits and credits, and the total amount of those deposits and credits. So there were 3 deposits and or credits, and they totaled $2,445.80. There were 7 total checks written or recorded for a total debit to the account of $2,158.92. This means the current bank balance is $1,520.28. Located directly below that are the transactions listed one by one, generally by date. The second piece that we need here is the reconciliation worksheet. And the reconciliation worksheet has 3 parts. In the first part, we begin with the balance, the current balance in your checkbook or in the business checkbook. To that, we add any interest or credits that the bank has added to your account that you may not have had notice of. Does this happen? Yes. If you are lucky enough to have a bank account that earns interest, the interest would be added later, or possibly there is some sort of something that comes into your bank account that you maybe knew was coming, but not the exact date. For me, for interest, for example, I have a direct deposit that I know when it's happening, but like my tax return, I usually know essentially when it's happening, but I don't always remember to sign up for the text messages, so I know the exact date. So sometimes I'll be like, oh, that must have come in this week. So that's the kind of thing that the bank may have gotten information on before I actually knew it was coming. If you're lucky enough to have certificates of deposit or perhaps bonds or treasury bonds or stocks that may come due at some point, maybe you've got an 18-month CD, and so you took it out in 2018 and you know you're going to have $1,200 dumped into your account at some point this month, but you may not know the exact date. So these are all credits that the bank would know about that you might not have the exact date on. Maybe you do, maybe you don't know. We would figure out the total amount in the account after that. Then any deductions. Are there things that come out of your bank account that you're not aware of? Yep, you betcha. Service charges, bounced checks, fees sometimes come out. Overdrafts, that would come out of there. So those are deductions that your bank might have taken out that you might not have accounted for yet. And then that would give us the adjusted checkbook balance. Now, the second part of the reconciliation worksheet begins with the bank statement balance. This is your current statement balance. It adds in any deposits in transit. So this is sort of an old thing that's hung around for a bit, but sometimes back in the day, when we made a deposit, it would take a couple of days to show up in our account. This is what that's referring to. So maybe I made a deposit, but the bank hasn't transferred it over yet. These days it happens fairly instantaneously, but that wasn't always the case. We'd then find the subtotal amount in the account, and we would deduct any outstanding checks or other credits. Why wouldn't a check come out of your account? Well, maybe you actually wrote out a physical check and someone stuck it in a drawer and left it there. They did a whole Seinfeld episode on it. So, yeah, when Jerry suddenly cashed all of his grandmother's checks. It was quite funny. And then we would get our adjusted balance. This third part of the reconciliation statement is just a place to list all the checks that were unaccounted for, that you had as being written, but the bank had not taken out of your account yet. All right. Third piece that we need for number 3 is this mock-up of a check register. This is everything that the owner of the checkbook knows about and has recorded. And so what we're going to do, well, wait, hold on. Let me go over this first. In a checkbook register, this first column is for the number of the check that's been written, or you could also use it for things like this is a deposit or this came off my debit card. It's just an abbreviated sort of indication of the transaction. Then the date of the transaction, the description of it, who you wrote the check out to and what it was for, the amount of any payment. So anytime anything is coming out of your account, it goes in this column. We're going to use this check to indicate that the bank knew about it. I'll show you that as we go. Deposits are here in this column. And then the last column starts with the balance forward. So this was the last balance on the last page. And then this is where we work all of the resulting. So this 783 was 1233.40 minus 450.30 to give us 783.10. So this is a result of that transaction. After they took out $450.30, they were left with $783.10. We're going to add $500 then, or $560. What is that? $500 to get $1,283.10 when we're going to subtract. So this is all of the resulting calculations, ending with the final checkbook balance. Okay? So how does this work? Well, first we're just going to check things out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the bank balance. And I'm going to see that on 6/3 there was a checking amount of $450.30 for check 1209. I'm going to then check the check register for check 1209, and I'm going to make sure it was $450.30, and I'm going to put a check mark there. Since this is in both places, since both people know about it, I don't need to exchange that information. Both the bank and the checkbook were clear on that. So I can put a check there, and I'm just going to draw a light line through that item in the checkbook or in the bank statement. That way, if I've made a mistake, I can still see it's there, but I can ignore it for now. On 6/6, there's a $500 deposit. Checkbook, yep, we got the $500 deposit, so I can draw a line through that. On 6/10, check 1210 for $47.75. 1210, $47.75, got it. On 6/13, there is a payroll deposit of $1,300. So I'm going to find 6/13 and the payroll deposit of $1,300. Yep, we knew about that one. Do you notice that I skipped over 1211? So I'm going to do a quick scan of the statement information, and I'm going to see there is no check 1211 there. So I'm going to circle this to highlight it, because that is a piece of information that is in the checkbook that was not in the bank statement. Thus, I need to mark that down, note it, I'll need it later. On 6/15, I have a Check 1212 in the amount of $312.79. 1212, $312.79. Yep, we're good. Then I have 617 and $547.22 in check 1214. 547.22, check 1214. And do you notice again that we skipped one? We skipped check 1213 for $75. I notice in my remaining information, I don't have $75, nor do I have check 1213. So this is another piece of information that I will need to highlight. All right, I have an ATM withdrawal of $350. That is the same ATM withdrawal that is here. I have a deposit of $645.80. That is the same deposit listed in my checkbook, $645.80. I have check 1215 for $430.86. And we have check 1215 for $430.86. I have a $20 service charge. And that's nowhere in here, so I will circle this one. And then lastly, we have a $550 deposit that is not on here, so I will also need to highlight this guy. Okay, these four pieces of information that are highlighted will have to go into the additions and deductions on this worksheet. So I now know which four pieces of information are going to need to be properly placed within this worksheet. So here we go. The current checkbook balance is the balance at the end of your checkbook. That's going to be the $1,673.18. From there, did the bank give any additional interest or other credits? Well, there's a $20, but that's a service charge. Service charges are not added to your account. They are deducted. So there was no addition that the bank made to your account. That means I have a subtotal of $1,673.18. There was a deduction from a service charge of $20. So I do need to deduct that. That's a subtraction. So I have $1,653.18. Great. Now, the statement balance is your current bank statement balance. That's going to be $1,520.28. Were there any additions or deposits in transit that you knew about, but the bank has not yet recorded? Well, yes, at the bottom, there was a deposit of $550. I have that in my checkbook, but it is not on the bank statement. So that is a deposit in transit. This gives me a total on this of $28.70, so $2,070.28 is the subtotal in that column. Now, the next column is the outstanding checks, which need to be deducted from the account. So, are there outstanding checks, checks that have not yet been deposited and or taken out of your account? Absolutely. I have two of them. I'm going to put both of those, check number 1211 for $342.10 and check number 1213, for $75. I'm going to write both of those out so they can be accounted for. And I'm going to put that total of $417.10 here in that worksheet. This $417.10 is deducted. I would take that away from the $2,070.28, leaving me with $1,653.18. This is the beauty of reconciliation. The two numbers have to match. So because those two numbers are the same, I have reconciled this account. Now, problem number 4 we'll do next.